may look very similar to that. Thanks for joining us here for Weather Unfiltered, everyone. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Molly McCollum, along with our expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, on this Tuesday night. And for a lot of us, it has been all fall. I mean, 100% fall.
Felt good for a lot of folks.
It just depends on what side of that front you're on, right? That whole pattern with the trough in the east has been laying down fronts over Florida that just keep sitting in the same spots. What is this, the third week in a row? The same frontal boundary essentially has been sitting down there.
But if you've been enjoying fall, Mother Nature giveth and Mother Nature taketh as well, because now the heat wave comes back.
So our little fall teaser is being replaced by temperatures above average this weekend, and I know not everybody is going to be complaining about that.
No, this is. I mean, the later this week goes on, the better the weather gets. It is. Because it's pleasantly cool nights.
Sure.
And then nice warm days. You can do just about anything. You can get in the pool. You can go outside.
I humbly disagree.
There is a particular coffee company that is advertising hot or iced pumpkin spice lattes. So you could have both this week.
You can have the hot one in the morning and the iced one in the afternoon.
Very true. Very
all
true.
about fall. Let's take you to Florida right now, where it's all about the rain.
Coming for us in the Sunshine State.
Well, I want to pick up for the end of the week towards the weekend, because this site that you're seeing behind me, it's a familiar site the past couple of weeks. You've got a stalled out boundary that sits across the Sunshine State. You've got drier weather in the Panhandle and the northern parts of Florida, and you've got all this focused tropical soupy moisture that's sitting from Orlando and Tampa and points down to the south. Do we see any dramatic changes as we head towards the weekend? Well, it just depends on how far to the south this front eventually moves, and it's really going to take the better part of the week to get this to move on. So here we go. By Thursday into Friday, we still have this front in place, but now starting to see some clearing out of Orlando, out of Tampa, Fort Myers, perhaps as we get towards the weekend. Now, it's very difficult this time of year to get fronts to clear all the way through Florida. That's really more of like a late fall winter time thing, but it's possible. Some of our models indicating that perhaps we do see this clear all the way through areas like Miami, providing us with briefly some drier weather as we head towards the weekend. Now, if that front does not make it that far to the south, then those rain chances for, say, South Florida, you have Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Naples, Alligator Alley, all of those places, the rain chances will remain through the weekend. So we're going to be watching this front for the next couple of days, really the better part of this upcoming week. We will see some pockets 3 to 5 inches of rain. This is all the way through Friday, but I think it's more for many of us in South Florida on the order of 2 to 3 inches of rain. And we've been slowly chipping away at some of those really big rainfall deficits. That includes Fort Lauderdale, which has the biggest one on the list here, and one of the biggest in Florida, where rainy season has been not so rainy so far. But we are making up for lost time very quickly. Just this month alone, the first 9 days of September, over 5 inches of rain. Miami, over 8 inches of rain. And this is a spot that we really need it, because we haven't seen a lot of rain throughout the rainy season so far. Of course, that's starting to change, right? The extreme drought has been building in between West Palm Beach down through Miami, even a lot of those areas that are just abnormally dry. That's been happening over the past couple of weeks, over the past couple of months. So Fort Lauderdale, here's your forecast as we head through the end of the week. We stick with the high rain chances. It'll really be towards the second half of the weekend that we have to watch exactly what that front does, and if we see it clear out those rain chances. And from Florida up to the East Coast, we are also dealing with the potential for fires. Obviously can do a lot of damage very quickly under the right conditions, and those conditions have been right for the past couple of weeks. But we're starting to see some changes in the pattern in the Pacific Northwest. These are all of the active wildfires here across really the western half of the United States. The past 24 hours, you see some of that smoke emission too, poor air quality, depending on exactly which way the wind is blowing. But we have some help on the way. 1 to 2 inches of rain. This is all the way through the next 7 days. We actually have some rain that potentially falling in parts of the Rockies too, where we do have fires burning. We're starting to get into the fall season here with the aspens changing here in Colorado. Very popular time to visit the Rockies. The drought has been tremendous. So any help we can get, certainly good news. 1 to 2 inches of rain there, the Pacific Northwest, but it's really going to take some time for more of that beneficial rain to get here. We have one upper level low that's sitting just to the south of the Pacific Northwest right now that's putting some moisture up towards areas like Seattle and Portland, but it's actually going to be the second system that moves in that is going to be the stronger one and the more beneficial one when it comes to a lot of the rainfall. But it is going to take the better part of this week for a lot of that moisture to arrive in the Pacific Northwest. That's this weekend now, where some of that higher moisture content starts to move onshore. So when we see some of this rain all the way through Sunday, you could see some of those localized heavy downpours. We'll have to watch some of those burn scar areas very closely, especially where we see those repeated heavy downpours. But flash flooding, we'll have to watch it tomorrow through at least Thursday morning for parts of Oregon, and where we do see this initial round of moisture moving in. But as soon as this low starts to move onshore and this pushes on the way, especially western Kansas, that's where the big focus of storms is going to be over the next couple of hours. In fact, we already have one that is pushing towards Goodland, Kansas. We have a severe thunderstorm watch. This goes until 9 p.m. Mountain time there. You've got a lot of the I-70 corridor from Goodland into Colorado. We've got one warning that's pretty much right on the border of Colorado and Kansas right now. And just look at this lone storm. A severe thunderstorm warning. This is for Kit Carson and Sherman counties. It includes Burlington. This goes until 4:45. You can see Goodland here. Not a lot of motion on this storm right now, but observed hail up to about ping pong ball sized hail, maybe even larger at this point, because we haven't really seen this lose a lot of strength. In fact, you look at some of the radar indicated hail and perhaps saying, I mean, it might be running a little bit hot here, but up to 2 inches in diameter. So you've got some significant hail that could be falling in this one storm and not really anything around it to disrupt it. We look at the visible satellite. It's like watching basically a pot of water boiling with all of these storms firing up. And you can really see some of those cloud tops getting taller and taller and more violent here over the past couple of hours. Available energy out ahead of some of these storms that are forming. We've got a lot of it there in the Texas Panhandle and Oklahoma Panhandle up towards parts of western Kansas. We eventually will see storms continue to roll in that direction, but thankfully this is happening later in the evening. We're going to see more of a straight line damaging wind threat take over through the overnight hours. We see storms lose a lot of their punch though, but heavy rain falling around Dodge City. Watch out for some flash flooding. And then by tomorrow morning, we're left with just some lingering showers moving into southeastern Kansas.
Here. So joining us again, our hurricane expert, former director of the National Hurricane Center, Dr. Rick Knapp. We're in a lull right now. This is typically the peak of the season. How unusual is it to get a break like this at this time of the year?
Well, it feels like it's the second year in a row that the peak of the season has been. The exact time of year that we've had this lull is unusual. Fernan dissipated on August 28th. We haven't had a named storm, even a depression since then. The last time we went from September 29th to the current date without a named storm was before the current active era that started in 1995. You have to go back to 1994 and 1992, and those were the less active era, and we had a lot of El Nino effects in those zones. And those are the only 2 years in the satellite era since 1970. We are in rare territory to have these last 2 weeks be storm-free.
Now, you mentioned last year we also had this unusual lull, but we all know what happened after that lull. Are you seeing any signs down the line that things in this pattern that is keeping us quiet right now is going to change?
Yes, I think there are pretty high chances that the second half of September will be busier than the first half will have been when it's all over. And one reason I say that is because you can see the favorable conditions right on the other side of Central America. You have the flurry of systems we've had, the J, K, and L storms, another one about to form, and you got upper level high pressure. And then just on the other side of Central America, you got an upper level low and shear in the Caribbean. I mean, so all it takes is for those conditions to move a little bit farther to the east, and then give it a couple weeks. The West Pacific has favorable conditions that could move. So you know, nobody knows for sure, but that's the expectation, that with these conditions on our doorstep, they're going to move in our direction. And oh, by the way, the waters are super warm and the whole basin is just a powder keg. As soon as the atmosphere gets a little more conducive, we have so much fuel out there. So given all of that, look at what the models are doing. Now, not much until that wave comes off of Africa on Friday. And then here's the Euro. There's next week in the main development region suggesting development.
Is there anything that the atmosphere has been showing us, or are there any trends that we can look at that says that, you know, mid or late September through October is going to be an active time? We saw that last year, and it looks like, could that happen again this year?
Yes, it very well could, because of what is going on in the Pacific, and there are signs that those conditions are propagating eastward. And it was still a surprise that we didn't get development this week from that wave that had a high chance last week. But as we go a week from now, the East Pacific looks busy, but the conditions moving farther to the east, even into late September, the Climate Prediction Center is suggesting. Now, they did say there's a lot of uncertainty in this, and one of the main reasons we're saying this is because it's September. So there's still some uncertainty about when the Atlantic will come back to light, but I think it will.
Gotcha. Thanks.